Kevin Hart broke your stand-up box office record.
What record did he break?
He said he broke some record of your box office sales for stand-up.
I don't know. What did he break?
See, I seen your stuff on social media, boy. I know what you do, but you do it for play.
Eddie Murphy just dropped a truth bomb, and it's got Kevin Hart looking real nervous. For years, Katt Williams has been tossing shade at Kevin, throwing subtle shots and loud jabs, from calling him an industry plant to daring him to a head-to-head comedy battle. And Kevin crickets, no response, no smoke, nothing. So why is one of the biggest comedians in the game ducking Katt like that? Well, here's where it gets juicier. Eddie Murphy, who's usually chill and stays far away from messy comedy beefs, finally broke his silence. And when he spoke, people listened. He's not just any OG. This is the Eddie Murphy we're talking about, the man who defined stand-up in his prime.
When are we, or are we ever gonna see you on stage again doing stand-up?
I'm gonna do it again, because I got to break Kevin's new record. I got to get back on the stage, because this new record that Kevin got, I got to have it back, Kevin.
In a recent interview, Eddie was asked about Kevin allegedly breaking his stand-up box office record, and he didn't even blink. Instead, he reminded everyone that Raw still holds the crown as the highest-grossing stand-up concert film in history, and that he ain't touched the stage in nearly 3 decades. Then came the curveball. He laughed and said, "Now I gotta get back on stage because I want that record back, Kevin." Sounds like a joke, right? But anyone who knows Eddie knows when he drops lines like that with a smirk, there's fire behind it. So how does this tie into Kevin being scared of Katt? Simple. Eddie just put Kevin on blast, not directly, but loud enough for the streets to hear. If the GOAT himself is challenging Kevin's throne, what does that say about the crown he's holding? And now you've got Katt Williams, who's never been afraid to speak up, waiting in the shadows, still daring Kevin to step up. Kevin Hart spent years polishing his image. Clean-cut, family-friendly, brand-safe to the core. But what happens when someone like Eddie Murphy, a comedy god who's seen it all, starts throwing shade on that rise? Suddenly, folks start side-eyeing that perfect little empire Kevin built, and that's when Katt Williams steps in like a wrecking ball. Katt didn't just diss Kevin, he torched the whole setup. In interview after interview, Katt's been straight up saying Kevin wasn't chosen for being the funniest. He was chosen for being the safest. Katt called him an industry plant who was pushed to the top because he played the game, kept his mouth shut, and never rocked the boat. Not talent, but obedience. And the craziest part? Katt brought receipts.
What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definitions of these words.
He claimed that during a 5-year window, all those big movie roles Kevin got, yeah, Katt had him first, but there was a catch. They wanted Katt to play step and fetch it type characters or lean into roles that felt disrespectful or overly stereotypical. He turned them down. Next thing you know, boom, those exact roles landed in Kevin's lap. No hesitation. Now add Eddie Murphy's slick jab, saying Kevin's record doesn't even count. And suddenly Kevin's status as the top guy in comedy starts looking real shaky, like maybe it wasn't built on pure hustle, but on connections and silence. And maybe that's the real reason Kevin avoids Katt, not because Katt's wild, not because he's negative, but because Katt knows the truth. He's seen the deals, heard the offers, watched how the game is played. Katt said no to things Kevin might have said yes to. At this point, it's not just about box office numbers or fame anymore. And this ain't just about box office numbers anymore. It's about credibility. And in an industry where power protects itself at all costs, the one thing Kevin Hart doesn't want is for Katt Williams or Eddie Murphy to keep talking. Eddie's comments about Kevin might have sounded lighthearted, but trust, that wasn't some random joke. When a legend like Eddie Murphy raises an eyebrow at your success, people pay attention. They start looking closer, asking questions. And once that door opens, it's hard to close. Because now folks aren't just asking how popular Kevin is, they're wondering how he got there, who helped him climb, what deals were made, what did he agree to, and what did he stay quiet about.
I got a show at your hometown in Philly. I'm gonna take my special there. On that stage, we can put whatever you want. A full court basketball court, a boxing ring.
One of those moments under the spotlight, a wild party Kevin hosted back in 2010. Location, Las Vegas. Occasion, a celebration thrown for Diddy. And Kevin wasn't just attending, he was hosting the whole thing. At the time, it looked like your usual Hollywood bash, but now, that same footage is being pulled back up and it's raising serious eyebrows. In one clip that's resurfaced, Kevin's seen in a dimly lit bathroom packed with women in bikinis. Candles flickering, bass bumping, chaos in the air. Then suddenly, one of the women's hair literally catches on fire. And Kevin, instead of reacting in shock or helping, he just laughs. Everyone does. It's like they're filming a comedy sketch while someone's head is burning. No urgency, no concern, just smoke, laughter, and cameras rolling. Another clip from that wild Vegas night shows Kevin Hart looking straight into the camera, but not just to crack a joke. This time, he warns the crew not to film a certain spot in the room where Diddy is posted up. No real reason given, no explanation, just a casual, don't film over there, we know, okay. But the camera does catch a glimpse of that very area, and that's when things blew up online. People started asking, why was Kevin redirecting the camera? What was going on in that part of the room? It wasn't just random curiosity, it was about the vibe, the secrecy, the energy. Something didn't sit right.
Kevin Hart broke your stand-up box office record.
What record did he break?
He said he broke some record of your box office sales in stand-up.
I don't know. Where did he break?
See, Kevin wasn't just some celeb who popped in and dipped. He was running the night, guiding the vibe. He was the host, the face, the energy director. He wasn't caught off guard. He was comfortable. He laughed when things got wild. He stayed when things got weird. And now, that comfort is starting to look suspicious. Because in 2024, federal investigators dropped bombshell accusations on Diddy, saying he was hosting what they called freak-offs. Private, invite-only parties filled with drugs, shady behavior, and stuff that's way beyond just celebrity fun. Lawsuits and testimonies paint a disturbing picture of what really went down behind those velvet ropes. Now let's be clear, Kevin Hart hasn't been accused of any crimes. There's zero evidence placing him in the illegal stuff being investigated. But that's not what's got people talking. What's making folks uneasy is how close he was to it all. On camera, in the room, laughing, directing attention away from certain scenes. He wasn't some innocent bystander, he was part of the scene. So when people wonder why Kevin Hart gets jumpy or dodges certain questions these days, this right here is why. The footage is out there. The timeline adds up. The connections? All very real. And when paparazzi pressed Kevin directly about his ties to Diddy, he didn't clear the air. He sidestepped. No straight answers, just silence. And that silence, it spoke volumes. Especially when you pair it with video clips showing him right in the mix. See, when someone stays quiet while standing next to controversy, people naturally start to wonder, what are they hiding? And maybe that's exactly what Eddie Murphy was throwing shade at. Not just Kevin's accomplishments, but what those accomplishments are really built on.
Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is?
Once that party footage from Vegas started making rounds online, folks went digging. And what they found? More red flags. People began to rewatch old interviews, revisit messy chapters in Kevin's past, and the clean image started to crack. Yeah, Kevin's been sold to the public as the hardworking, squeaky clean family man comic, but his history? Way messier than most fans realize. Let's rewind to 2013. Kevin got arrested in LA for driving under the influence. Cops said he was speeding and nearly hit a tanker truck. He showed clear signs of being drunk, and to his credit, Kevin did admit later that he was drinking and messed up. But that wasn't the only scandal. In 2017, boom, a cheating scandal hit hard. Kevin had just tied the knot with Eniku Parrish a year earlier when a video leaked showing him in a compromising position with another woman in Vegas again. But it wasn't just a cheating story. It turned criminal when someone tried to extort Kevin using that footage. Eventually, Kevin Hart dropped a public apology video, looking straight into the camera and admitting, "I made a bad error in judgment." That was his message to his wife and kids. But the sting hit even harder when Eniku later revealed in a Netflix documentary that she was pregnant at the time the cheating went down. Yeah, that's a whole different level of betrayal. But the controversies didn't stop there. Kevin's been caught in the crosshairs before, especially when it comes to his old jokes. Back in 2018, when he was announced as the host for the Academy Awards, Twitter detectives pulled up receipts. Old tweets and stand-up bits from the late 2000s where he made comments people labeled as straight-up homophobic. The backlash came fast. Critics demanded an apology. But Kevin, he dug in his heels. At first, he refused to apologize again, claiming he'd already addressed it. But as the pressure mounted and the spotlight turned brutal, he stepped down from hosting the Oscars and finally issued a public apology on social media.
We want to thank you. Come here. Don't sit on the bed at night. No homo. No, just don't get close to the bed. Don't get close. But it's just like, yo, we want to thank you for hosting the thing, man. It's been a pleasure. You didn't have to do it, and you did it.
No. I definitely didn't have to do it. I definitely didn't have to.
Here's the thing. None of these messes were just random, and they didn't happen in a vacuum. And if you look at the pattern, it's always the same. Deny or brush it off at first, then only come clean when the walls start closing in. It's not just about making mistakes, it's how he handles them. It screams damage control over accountability, control the narrative, save the brand. That's the playbook, and here's where it gets even more troubling. The company Kevin keeps. He's moved in powerful Hollywood circles, including staying close with people who are now facing serious heat, like Diddy, who's under a storm of allegations involving private parties, sketchy business dealings, and disturbing behind-the-scenes behavior. Let's be clear, Kevin Hart hasn't been accused of any crimes, but his name keeps popping up in conversations around silence, protection, and staying way too close to powerful people with questionable reputations. It's not always about breaking the law. Sometimes it's about who you protect by staying quiet and who benefits from that silence. And that's exactly what Katt Williams went off about during his viral 2024 sit-down with Club Shay Shay. That wasn't just another interview. That was a full-blown breakdown of everything Katt's been holding back about the comedy game. And guess who was right at the center of the fire? Kevin Hart. For Katt, it wasn't just about jealousy or drama. It was about how fast Kevin shot to the top. The speed of his success didn't sit right. According to Katt, real comedians don't skip the grind. They spend years doing back-to-back club shows, traveling from city to city, building fans from the ground up. But Kevin, he seemed to teleport past all that. Katt didn't just throw accusations, he pulled out receipts. He called out inconsistencies in Kevin's so-called come up, especially what was shown in that Netflix documentary he did with Chris Rock. In that series, Kevin's roots were painted as deep in East Coast stand-up, but Katt was like, hold up, if that timeline is true, how was Kevin also out in LA working his way up at the same time? To Katt, it didn't add up.
Yeah. The water was deeper though.
Came up, flame was gone. At that time, I was in panic. I had asthma. It was a difficult situation.
So how was Kevin grinding on the East Coast and simultaneously building his career in LA? That's the question Katt Williams dropped, and he didn't ask it lightly. It didn't happen, he said flat out. That's when the word plant came into the convo. Not as a diss, but as a serious call-out. For Katt, a plant isn't just some industry slang. It's a real thing. It's someone who's placed in the system, handed roles, boosted with insider connections, and then packaged like they pulled it off solo. No struggle, no scars, just instant stardom wrapped up in a PR bow. And that's exactly how Katt viewed Kevin's rise. To him, the roles Kevin got, the record-breaking deals, the rapid takeover, none of it felt like the natural reward of years on the comedy grind. It felt manufactured. It felt strategic. So Katt started asking questions that a lot of other comics were probably too scared to say out loud. Now, to be fair, Kevin has clapped back at these kinds of accusations before. Back in a 2014 interview with Oprah on Oprah Prime, he got asked straight up about people calling his rise too fast or too easy. Kevin's response? Hollywood has a way of making everything seem like an overnight success, he said. He went on to claim he had 18 years in the game, grinding, paying dues, studying legends like Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock. He told Oprah that his house was covered in photos of comedy giants. To him, that was motivation. What separates me, he said, is my drive. My drive is other people's success. But here's where the split shows. Katt never denied that Kevin worked hard. That wasn't the point. The real issue? Who helped him leap ahead? What doors opened early, and why they opened for Kevin but stayed shut for everyone else. Most comedians never get to skip the line. But when the buzz around Kevin Hart's fast-track rise hit a fever pitch, Katt Williams turned up the heat. And he didn't just come for Kevin, he came for the whole system.
Hey, Kevin, when you hosted for Diddy, did you catch any baby oil?
You'll see, when I hosted for Diddy?
Yeah. Nah?
You asking the wrong person the wrong question.
Katt didn't buy the idea that Hollywood was some magical land where the funniest people naturally rise to the top. In his eyes, it's a rigged game, run by real gatekeepers who decide who gets the keys and who stays locked out. And according to Katt, Kevin didn't just benefit from that system, he became one of the gatekeepers himself. To prove his point, Katt brought up Kevin's connection to Tiffany Haddish, a name everyone knows now thanks to her breakout role in Girls Trip and her headline-making moment hosting SNL. But before all the fame, Tiffany's story was rough, real rough. She's spoken openly about being homeless, sleeping in her car, and grinding it out just to survive while chasing a dream in comedy. In a 2018 Vanity Fair interview, Tiffany told a story that's often used to praise Kevin, but Katt saw it differently. Here's what went down. Kevin and Tiffany were both performing at the Laugh Factory when he noticed she was living in her car. He gave her $300, told her to get a hotel room for the night, and then sat her down for a serious talk. He told her to write out her goals, step by step, and chase them like her life depended on it. Tiffany took that advice to heart. She got a motel, made her list, and started checking things off. Roles she dreamed of, actors she wanted to work with, long-term moves for her career. But Katt Williams wasn't buying the fairy tale Hollywood version of Tiffany Haddish's rise to fame. During a fiery appearance on V103's Frank and Wanda in the Morning, he didn't hold back. He straight up questioned whether Tiffany had really earned the crown the industry placed on her head. Katt reminded everyone that Tiffany's been doing comedy since she was 16, but then hit the crowd with this: "You can't tell me your favorite Tiffany Haddish joke." And just like that, the room went quiet. His point? For someone being called a top comedian, where's the material to back it up? He pressed even harder, saying she hasn't done a tour, hasn't dropped a stand-up special that proves she can hold the stage for an hour, and might not even write her own material. To him, it felt like the industry threw her in the spotlight, not because she was fully ready, but because she fit a marketable image. Then things really got tense.
The cop comes over. Cop's like, "License and registration, please." So Mike go, "Buck, where's the registration for the cop?" You know, he's got this African accent, right? Buck go. Man, you better get the fuck out of here. Stop talking to me, Mike. I don't know this shit. I don't know what nothing that, man.
Katt brought up how the industry was quick to throw Monique under the bus, and a veteran comic with real chops, while lifting up someone fresh off Girls Trip. "Did you think she wrote Girls Trip, goofball?" Katt snapped. "Or do you think that was already a script and they just handed it to her?" He was calling out what he saw as a setup, a fast rise with no solid comedy foundation underneath. Host Wanda Smith tried to defend Tiffany, saying fans loved her because she was real, but Katt clapped back instantly. Since when did being real become a marketable product? He even threw another layer into the mix when suggesting that part of Tiffany's appeal came from her public attraction to white men, especially Brad Pitt. Katt hinted that this kind of openness helped her move through an industry still controlled by old-school power players. Katt wrapped up his takedown by spotlighting the real issue, how the industry keeps overlooking black women in comedy who've actually put in decades of work. He name-dropped legends like Lunel, Miss Laura, and Melanie Camacho, women who've been grinding forever but still don't get the red carpet treatment. They put in work, Katt said, but you don't see the industry lining up for them. That last jab hit a nerve, and Kevin Hart wasn't about to stay silent. Soon after, Kevin popped up on The Breakfast Club with Tiffany Haddish right beside him, and he came swinging. Speaking directly to Katt, he said, "You had the shot. You were set up to be the star, but you didn't show up to work." Kevin claimed Katt missed promotional shoots, bailed on opportunities, and became too unpredictable for studios to trust. "You became a risk," he said bluntly. Then Kevin flipped the script, accusing Katt of tearing others down instead of owning the way his own career spiraled.
Did you think she wrote Girls Trip, goofball?
Right.
Or do you think that was already a script and they handed it to her?
According to Kevin, Katt had every chance and fumbled the bag. But what made this clash different was how specific Katt got. He wasn't just throwing names out for shock, he was dropping details. Katt claimed that nearly every major comedy film Kevin starred in over a 5-year stretch was originally offered to him. But he said no. Why? Because the roles leaned into stereotypes he didn't want to touch. And because some scripts, in his words, pushed overtly homosexual humor that didn't sit right with him. "I'm not against comedy," Katt clarified, "but I'm not going to play into every joke they hand me just to get ahead. I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to play something I don't believe in just to get ahead." That's what Katt Williams said, loud and clear. He claimed he tried giving input on scripts, offering edits and suggestions, but the studios weren't trying to hear it. They passed on him and handed those same roles, unchanged, straight to Kevin Hart, who accepted them without blinking. That comment tapped directly into something Katt had been preaching for years. The idea that some black male actors are pressured into wearing dresses for laughs, like it's some unspoken rite of passage in Hollywood, a way to earn your spot by playing into outdated stereotypes. And Katt wasn't the only one bringing that up. Even Dave Chappelle spoke on it. But when Scary Movie 5 was dropping and Katt was doing press, the topic came roaring back. Why? Because around that same time, Kevin Hart had just done a skit on Saturday Night Live, dressed in full drag, and to Kevin it was harmless, just comedy, nothing more. But to Katt, that moment hit different. It wasn't about the dress itself, and it was what it represented, a sign of how far someone's willing to go to fit in. In Katt's eyes, it was never about hating on Kevin for doing comedy. It was about what kind of comedy the industry rewards and who they push forward when they play along. That right there, that was the real rift between them.
Ever been the humble guy? I have time to not be humble today. I have time to fact check everything he said because the world of Katt Williams is a fictional world.
Katt believes he got sidelined because he wouldn't play the game. He turned down roles, questioned scripts, and refused to be quiet about the power structures behind the curtain. And because of that, he says, Hollywood left him behind. Kevin, he sees it completely different. And Kevin Hart sees himself as a hustler, someone who moved smart, said yes to every opportunity, and built an empire from the ground up, but not everyone buys that narrative. Katt Williams isn't the only one calling out Kevin's moves. Another name? Monique. And what she had to say definitely raised some eyebrows. According to Monique, Kevin straight up ghosted her during one of the darkest times in her career, when she was catching serious heat from major Hollywood power players like Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. While Monique was standing her ground and refusing to play by Hollywood's rules, Kevin, she claims, quietly slipped away instead of standing beside her. And that's where the whispers start. It's because behind the scenes, people say Kevin's been cozying up to those very same power players, Tyler and Oprah, all in the name of climbing that ladder. Now here's where it gets interesting. Back in 2021, Kevin invited Monique onto his Comedy Gold Mines podcast. They went deep, not just laughs and light talk, but real raw moments. Monique opened up about her journey in comedy and how her career nearly hit rock bottom. She described how her whole family felt backed into a corner, dealing with pressure from all sides.
You know what? I was actually one of those comedians that said, no, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way.
Dave Chappelle and I said that they tried to make him wear a dress.
You have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. I know what they are. You gotta know that you're a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times. And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, nobody made Martin put on a dress and nobody made Tyler Perry. It was a choice that I made.
Kevin, to his credit, played the supportive role. He told Monique she was like family, a mother, an aunt, a sister, all rolled into one. He even went a step further, saying he wanted to help her navigate the drama. Kevin admitted he didn't really know Oprah personally, but he did have ties to Tyler Perry and all, and he promised Monique he'd reach out. And according to him, he did just that. After having that deep heart-to-heart with Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart came back to Monique with some hopeful news. Perry was apparently ready to let go of the past and move forward. Kevin played peacekeeper, urging Monique to do the same. Let's leave all that negativity in the rearview mirror, Mo. We've got bigger things to accomplish together. He came off as the voice of reason, pushing for unity, growth, and money moves. But Kevin didn't stop at pep talks. He put his wallet and name on the table, too. In a sit-down with Shannon Sharpe, Monique dropped some bombshells about just how far Kevin went to support her. She revealed that he didn't just offer emotional backup, he offered to partner with her professionally. According to Monique, Kevin straight up said, Mo, I talked to Tyler. He doesn't want to reopen that chapter, but here's what we're gonna do. Forget the past. Let's build something. Whatever you want to do, I'll partner with you. I'll executive produce it. Just say the word. That wasn't just talk. Kevin even backed her financially, lending her a fat chunk of cash when she needed it. And Monique, she paid it back. With interest. No drama, no dragging. Just business handled. Now here's where the story takes a turn. After Kevin promised to help her get her talk show project back on its feet, Monique was hyped. I mean, who wouldn't be? Having Kevin Hart on board as executive producer could turn any project into gold. So she did what anyone would do. She called her team at Endemol, the media production powerhouse, and told them the good news. Monique was thrilled at the idea of teaming up with one of the biggest names in comedy. A comeback with Kevin Hart by her side? That could have changed everything. But then, plot twist. Just 2 weeks later, Monique gets blindsided with some brutal news. Her team at Endemol tells her that Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky, made a call, and just like that, Kevin's out. Cold feet. No explanation, no warning. Just a sudden pullback that left everyone confused. So Monique does what anyone would do, and she reaches out to Kevin directly, hoping for some clarity. And what does she get? A smooth little brush off. We'll talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. Well, Tuesday came and went. Fast forward 2 whole years. And nothing. No call, no update, no follow-up. Kevin Hart, silent. Now, here's where it gets messy. Fans started connecting dots, and some weren't buying the cold feet excuse. A few even claimed Kevin never really intended to help in the first place. They're saying the whole move was more about image than action. And then came the conspiracy theories. Some folks online whispering about Kevin selling out to stay in favor with the Hollywood power circle. You know the names? Oprah, Tyler Perry, the ones Monique had major drama with, and the theory that helping her would have meant risking everything Kevin had built with them. Whatever the truth is, one thing's for sure. Eddie Murphy flipped the spotlight onto Kevin Hart in a way no one expected. When Eddie Murphy, a living comedy legend, questions your rise, that's not just a clapback. That's the green light for the whole world to start digging. And once a heavyweight like Eddie pulls your card, it's not about Instagram numbers or Netflix deals anymore. It's about respect. And respect, once it's gone, you can't buy it back. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Kevin played Monique, or was it just bad timing? Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one.